The first thing Ethan noticed when he crossed the threshold was the silence. Not the ordinary, comfortable kind of quiet that fills empty houses. This silence felt heavy. Listening. His hand hovered over the light switch longer than it needed to. The bulb flickered to life, washing the narrow entryway in a pale, sickly glow. Dust floated in the air like drifting snow, untouched for years. But the house wasn't abandoned. Not exactly. He felt it watching him. Ethan exhaled slowly, forcing himself to step farther inside. It's just a building, he told himself. Old wood creaks. Air settles. Your brain fills blanks with fear. He had repeated those words 1,000 times on the drive here, yet they suddenly felt thin and useless. The smell hadn't changed. Old paper, rain-soaked wood, and something faintly metallic. He swallowed hard. He remembered that smell. His boots echoed on the cracked floorboards as he moved toward the living room, flashlight in hand. The afternoon light outside was fading fast. Clouds were gathering, turning the sky a flat bruised gray. In a couple of hours, the whole house would be swallowed by darkness. He didn't want to be here when that happened, but he had no choice. The house belonged to him now. After 12 years of pretending it never existed, after 12 years of avoiding the truth, after 12 years since the night everything changed, he had finally come back. A distant thump echoed from upstairs. Ethan froze. The sound wasn't wind. It wasn't pipes. It was too heavy, too deliberate. Something was moving. His breath hitched, and for a moment, the world narrowed to the circle of light trembling at the end of his flashlight. You're just on edge, he tried again. Old houses make noises. But even he didn't believe it. He forced one foot forward, then another. Each step felt like pushing through thick water. He reached the living room doorway. The furniture was exactly where it had been left 12 years ago. But the photos were gone, every frame, every picture, completely removed from the walls. Ethan's heartbeat kicked up. He scanned the room slowly. Something else was wrong too, but he couldn't place it, not until the beam of his flashlight slid across the far wall. Deep gouges ran down the plaster, for long marks, uneven, like someone or something had dragged fingers through the wall as they fell. Ethan's chest tightened. He remembered those marks. He had made them. He backed up a step, throat tightening as old memories pounded at the edges of his mind. He pressed his fist to his forehead, trying to hold them back. Not yet. Not now. Another thump came from upstairs. Then a soft dragging sound. Ethan clenched the flashlight so hard his knuckles turned white. He considered leaving, getting back into his car, driving away from this place forever. But if he ran now, he knew he would never return. And if he never returned, he would never get answers. He took a shaky breath and started up the stairs. With each step, the air grew colder. He reached the landing, sweeping the beam left and right. The hallway was darker than he remembered. Narrower, somehow. His old bedroom door stood slightly open, and from inside came a sound so faint, Ethan wasn't sure he heard it right. A whisper, a voice he hadn't heard in 12 years. Ethan? His blood ran cold. The flashlight slipped from his fingers and hit the floor. The beam spun wildly, illuminating the cracked wallpaper, the dust swirling in the air, and the shadow standing inside his old room. A human silhouette. Still. Waiting. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The voice came again, softer, trembling. Why did you come back? Ethan's mind screamed at him to run, but he stepped forward instead, drawn by something deeper than fear. He pushed the door open, and the shadow moved. Ethan didn't immediately understand what he was looking at. When the door swung open, the shadow dissolved, not like a person stepping aside, but like smoke losing shape. The room beyond was empty, completely still, but the whisper still echoed in his skull. Too clear to be imagination. He swallowed hard and stepped inside. His childhood bedroom had shrunk since he last saw it, though he knew that was impossible. The walls were closer, the ceiling lower. The faded blue wallpaper curled at the edges like peeling skin. His old wooden desk had collapsed inward, drawers twisted, legs broken, but something else caught his attention. The floor, Dozens of footprints covered the dusty boards. Not his small, bare, child-sized prints. They circled the room in chaotic loops as though someone had been running in circles, running and running and running, until the dust had smudged and blurred into frantic arcs. Ethan's breath quivered. He kneeled slowly, touching one of the clearer prints with trembling fingers. The dust around it stirred slightly, as though it had only recently been made. "Is someone here?" he whispered to the empty room, voice barely audible. He didn't truly expect an answer, but one came anyway, from behind him. "Don't touch those." Ethan lurched to his feet, spinning around so fast he nearly lost balance. The doorway was empty, the hallway silent. His pulse roared in his ears. "Who's there?" No reply. He hesitated only a moment before stepping into the hallway. The air felt dense, heavy, like the whole corridor had sunk underwater. He swung the flashlight, beamed down the hallway, and froze. Someone was standing at the far end, still facing him, barely visible in the dim light. A child, or the silhouette of one small frame. Thin arms had slightly tilted. Ethan's stomach twisted. "Hello," he called out, throat tight. Are you lost?" The figure didn't move, didn't blink. Just stood there, staring. He took a cautious step forward. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Nothing. Not even a twitch. Ethan's hand shook as he raised the flashlight higher, the beam stretching toward the figure, and then, without warning, the silhouette jerked back, melting into the darkness at impossible speed. Ethan gasped and stumbled backward, catching himself on the wall. "What the?" But before he could finish the thought, a soft tapping sound echoed behind him. He turned. Bedroom door, the one he'd just left, was closing slowly, smoothly, silently. His skin prickled. "Stop," he whispered. But the door continued closing until it clicked shut. A breath of cold air brushed the back of his neck. Ethan spun again. Nothing. Only the long hallway, stretching into the darkness. His heartbeat hammered, so hard it felt like it might crack his ribs. He forced himself to move, to go toward the staircase. He needed space, air, something that wasn't suffocating him with memory and fear. But halfway down the stairs, he halted. A sound drifted up from the kitchen below. Glass clinking, soft, rhythmic, like someone gently tapping their fingertips against a bottle. Ethan tightened his grip on the railing. He hadn't been in the kitchen yet. He didn't want to go there. Out of every room in the house, that one held the worst memories. But ignoring the sound wouldn't make it disappear. He descended the remaining steps. The kitchen door was slightly ajar, light pooling through the crack. The soft tapping continued, steady and slow, like a metronome counting down. Ethan nudged the door with his foot. It creaked open, revealing the dim, sagging kitchen. The table was overturned. The cupboards hung open, hinges broken. The old refrigerator hummed faintly, though it wasn't plugged in. And in the center of the floor, a single glass bottle stood upright. Tapping, tapping, tapping. Something inside it was moving. Ethan approached cautiously, lowering the flashlight beam. Inside the bottle was a small object, a folded piece of paper. His throat tightened. "Is this?" He didn't finish. His hands were already moving. He snatched the bottle and yanked the paper out. It was crumpled, yellowed with age, and covered in handwriting he recognized. His mother's. Ethan's vision blurred for a moment. He forced himself to unfold the note slowly, carefully, fingers trembling. There were only 4 words. "He never left you." A sharp knock sounded behind him. Ethan twisted around. The kitchen window was fogged over, though it was warm outside. But now, faintly, something was being traced into the condensation. Letters. Slow, deliberate. Ethan's breath hitched as the message formed. "Turn around." He staggered back, slamming into the counter. No, no, no. The room seemed to tighten around him, shadows gathering like living things. He squeezed his eyes shut, gripping the edge of the counter so hard his knuckles burned. In the suffocating silence, he heard it again, a whisper right behind him. Gravelly, familiar. Smiling. Double quotes. "Welcome home, son." Ethan didn't turn around. Every muscle in his body locked, frozen by the voice he had not heard in 21 years. The voice he had prayed never to hear again. The voice that belonged buried 6 feet under reality. But it was behind him now, breathing, slow, steady, patient. "Dad," Ethan whispered, though the word cut his throat like glass. No answer, just breath. He forced his eyes open. The kitchen around him seemed to pulse, shadows tightening at the edges of his vision. The message on the fogged window was already starting to melt. "Turn around." His shaking fingers curled around the edge of the counter. If he turned, he wasn't sure he would survive what he saw. But if he didn't, the house would make him. Finally, with a breath that felt like drowning, Ethan pivoted, and his mind cracked. There was nothing behind him. No figure, no shadow, no living or dead presence, only the doorway leading back into the dark hallway. But the air was wrong. Too still, too full, like something had been there a heartbeat ago. Like it was still there, watching, loving how afraid he was. Ethan pressed a hand to his forehead, dizziness washing over him. "This isn't real," he whispered. "I'm imagining it. Stress, childhood trauma. I'm just..." But he stopped, because the kitchen light flickered once, twice, then died. Darkness swallowed the room. Ethan's pulse hammered as he fumbled with the flashlight, his fingers numb, clumsy. He hit the switch and the beam cut across the kitchen. And in that flash of white he saw it. A figure standing in the hallway, tall, broad-shouldered, head bowed slightly, hands hanging motionless at its sides, just like his father used to stand when Ethan was a boy. Before the shouting, before the bell, before everything turned into bruises and silence, Ethan blinked, and the figure vanished, gone in less than a second. His breath stuttered. He backed into the counter, gripping the flashlight with both hands like a weapon. "Leave me alone," he whispered into the darkness. "I don't live here anymore. I'm not your kid. You can't..." The house creaked sharply overhead, interrupting him. Footsteps, heavy ones, slow, deliberate, pacing across the second floor. Ethan's stomach twisted. That sound had haunted him as a child, those thunderous footsteps. That meant anger. That meant danger. That meant run before he finds you. They were unmistakable. They were his father's. But his father wasn't alive, was he? Ethan raised the flashlight, forcing himself toward the hallway. Each step felt like wading through mud. The house groaned with every motion, as though it recognized him, remembering him. Bone deep at the base of the staircase. He hesitated. The footsteps above stopped. The silence was suffocating. Then a soft thump. Something landing on the second floor hallway floor. Another thump. Closer. Ethan's voice nearly broke. "No, please don't do this." The third thump came right above him, loud, like something heavy had dropped. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Ethan flinched. A soft whisper drifted from upstairs, almost tender. "Come up, son." His legs nearly buckled. He staggered backward, shaking his head. No, I'm not going up there." "But the house?" disagreed because the front door, the only escape, slammed shut behind him so violently the walls shook. Ethan spun around and sprinted toward it. He grabbed the handle that burned him. He yanked his hand away. The metal was scorching hot. Impossible to touch. Trapped. He turned again, chest heaving, breath sharp and shallow. The staircase loomed in front of him. The top was drowned in darkness. But something was up there, waiting, hoping. And then he heard it, a small, broken sob. Not a man's voice, a child's. Ethan froze. It wasn't coming from the second floor. It wasn't coming from memory. It wasn't even coming from any room. It was coming from directly behind him, slowly, terrified. He turned. A little boy stood at the bottom of the stairs, barefoot, pale, clothes torn, hair messy, as though he'd been running in circles for hours. Dust smeared across his face, and his eyes wide. Brown. Haunted. Familiar. Ethan's single quotes as flashlight trembled. The world tilted. His blood went cold, because the boy wasn't a stranger. It was him, a younger him. 8 years old. The age the beatings were worst. The age he tried running away for the first time. The AG thought the house itself hated him. The child Ethan stared up at him with trembling lips. "Why did you leave me here?" he whispered. Ethan stepped back, breath catching. I didn't know. I didn't know you were," but the boy raised a shaking finger, pointing past Ethan, toward the top of the stairs. "He's waiting." Ethan's mouth went dry. He turned his head slowly. Something stood at the top of the staircase. Not his father. Something bigger. Wrong, bent slightly at the joints, as if bones didn't fit skin. Its head tilted at an angle no human neck could manage. Tall enough to touch the ceiling if it stood straight, shadow where a face should be. But its eyes burned faintly in the dark, red, watching, remembering him. And then it spoke, in a warped mixture of his father's voice and something far older. "Come upstairs, Ethan. We're not finished." Ethan couldn't breathe. The creature at the top of the stairs didn't move, didn't even sway, but its presence pressed down on him like the entire house had inhaled and refused to exhale. The younger Ethan was still at the bottom step, small bare feet curled inward, trembling. "Please," the child whispered. "Don't make him angry." Ethan swallowed hard, his throat painfully tight. "I'm not going up there," he managed to say, though his voice was barely more than air. "I'm not that kid anymore. I'm done being afraid." But the house answered for him. The floor beneath his feet vibrated, a deep, sickening tremor that rattled the windows, knocked the picture frame off the wall, and set the smell of old wood and mold erupting from the walls. The creature shifted its head, a slow, unnatural twitch, like it was amused. Ethan felt a pressure at his back, cold, soft, barely there. A small hand, the child version of him, whispered behind him. "You don't choose here. The house does." Before Ethan could turn, the hand shoved him, not hard, just enough. He stumbled forward, catching the railing with one palm as the flashlight nearly slipped from his grip. The staircase stretched up into darkness like a throat, ready to swallow him. He glanced back, but the boy was gone. The hallway behind him was empty, silent, as though nothing had been there at all. Only the cold remained. And the creature at the top. Ethan clenched the flashlight so tightly it creaked. One step, the wooden stair moaned. Second step, the air grew colder. Third, fourth, fifth, every inch he climbed. The creature's burning red eyes followed him. No movement, no breath, just watching like a memory that never died, only waited. Halfway up, Ethan whispered through clenched teeth, "What are you?" The thing didn't answer at first. Then its head bent even more, the cracking sound loud and brittle. Its voice slid down the stairs like oil. "I am what he turned into." Ethan froze. He shook his head. "My father wasn't. He wasn't that." A low rasp vibrated the walls. "He fed us." Ethan's breath hitched. "Us?" The creature's eyes flared. "All the fear, all the nights you hid, all the tears he carved out of you. This house swallowed it. And I grew." The walls groaned. The staircase trembled. Ethan grabbed the railing with both hands as dust rained down. "Stop!" he shouted. "You're lying." A deep, rumbling sound rose from the house like laughter. "But wrong. Too dry. Too old." "Then come see," the creature crooned. A hand stretched out from the darkness beside it. Long, too long. Fingers like sharpened branches. Ethan's stomach twisted, but his feet kept climbing. Every step felt pulled, like the house was reeling him in. Near the top, he lifted the flashlight higher. The beam hit something beside the creature, a doorway. His old bedroom. The door was wide open. Inside, a small bed, blue sheets with faded rocket ships, a pile of broken toys in the corner, a dresser with a single drawer cracked open, exactly as he had left it the night he ran away. His chest locked. "No," Ethan whispered. "This room was cleared out. It was empty. They sold the furniture." The creature's voice replaced the air. "Not for you." Ethan stepped onto the landing. The creature didn't block him. It simply melted backward into the darkness of the hallway, leaving the doorway exposed. His hand shook as he lifted the flashlight. Everything was as he remembered. Two much as he remembered. Suddenly something moved on the bed. Ethan jumped so hard he nearly dropped the flashlight. A lump under the blanket. Small. Breathing softly. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. No. It couldn't be. Slowly the blanket shifted, and a small head peeked out. A boy, 8 years old. Ethan staggered back a step, nearly tripping. The child, another version of him, sat up in bed, eyes heavy with tears. "Don't go," the boy whispered. Ethan's mind reeled. "No, no, no, I already saw you downstairs." Another whisper behind him. "You saw one." He turned sharply. The creature loomed at the end of the hall, taller now, scraping the ceiling. "And there are more." Then the bedroom door slammed shut, hitting Ethan in the face so hard the flashlight flew from his hand. Darkness swallowed everything. The child's screams erupted on the other side of the door. Terrified, begging, "Please don't let him in, please, please, please." Ethan grabbed the doorknob. It was ice cold. He twisted locked. He slammed his shoulder against the door. It didn't budge. The child screamed louder, choking, sobbing. "He's coming, he's..." Silence. Instant. Absolute. Ethan froze. His breath scraped his lungs. Then a sound came from inside the room. Soft, wet, dripping. A single word whispered through the door, in the same warped voice as the creature. "Remember." The door slowly began to open, and something inside the room moved toward the thin line of light. The door creaked open no more than an inch. Just enough for a cold draft to slide out, brushing Ethan's skin like the breath of something crouched on the other side, waiting. He swallowed hard and pushed the door wider. The hinges screamed. The room was dim, moonlight leaking through the window, just enough to outline the bed, the dresser, and the dark streaks across the floorboards. Not dust, not shadows, something thicker. His lungs tightened. "No," Ethan whispered. "No, this isn't real." A faint rustling came from the far corner of the room. Ethan forced himself to step inside. The floor was sticky beneath his shoes, and a sour metallic smell hung in the air, familiar in a way his mind rejected. He reached the bed first. The blanket was still bunched. Small handprints on the sheet. A dent where the boy had been sitting, still warm. But no child. Just absence. He turned slowly toward the corner. Something was hunched there. A shape. Body. Ethan's pulse hammered. He lifted a shaking hand. Reaching for the flashlight, he dropped outside, then realized a dim glow was already illuminating the figure. Not from the moonlight, but from its eyes. A child sat curled on the floor. Another version of him. Older than the one on the stairs. Younger than the one on the bed. 4 or 5 years old. Rocking back and forth. Scratching the wall with broken fingernails. Repeating in a hoarse whisper, "I didn't tell. I didn't tell. I didn't tell." Ethan stopped breathing. He remembered that age. He remembered hiding. He remembered the smell of whiskey on heavy footsteps. He remembered gripping the wall, trying to disappear into it. "Hey," Ethan whispered, voice raw. "Look at me. It's okay." The child froze mid-rock. Slowly, he lifted his head. His face was wrong, distorted by bruises Ethan remembered too well. But worse, exaggerated. Rotting memory turned physical. The boy stared at him with hollow eyes. "You left us here." Ethan staggered back. No, I escaped. I survived." The child shook his head, voice cracking like snapped wood. "You survived alone." Ethan's throat closed before he could speak. The creature's voice slithered through the room. "He did." The walls trembled. The air thickened. Ethan spun around. The creature filled the doorway. Its shape had changed again, broader, towering, dripping something dark onto the floor. Its spine arched like it was growing branches. Or breaking. "You ran," it growled. "You left your fear behind." Ethan clenched his fists, anger and terror flooding him at once. "You are not real," he spat. "Your trauma. Your memory. A nightmare wearing my father's shadow." The creature laughed, a deep, guttural sound that made the window crack. "I am what you buried," it rumbled. "But what is buried does not die." The child in the corner began sobbing, loud, violent. "Don't let him take me again," he cried. "Please don't let him take me." Ethan stepped in front of him instinctively. The creature moved 1 step. The floor split under its weight. 2 steps. The dresser toppled. 3 steps. Its breath fell over Ethan like frostbite. You could never stop him, the creature hissed, lowering its face to his. Not then, not now, not ever. Something cracked inside Ethan, not fear, but rage. For the boy on the stairs, for the boy on the bed, for the boy in the corner, for himself. Ethan grabbed a shard of wood from the broken floor and pointed it at the creature. That wasn't me, he said, voice shaking but steady. That was a child. And you. He jabbed the air toward the monster. You're just what he left behind. The creature's eyes burned brighter. The house shook violently, walls splitting, ceiling groaning, air vibrating with a deep animal growl. You think you can fight me? The creature roared. Ethan didn't blink. No, he said. I'm not fighting you. He turned and lifted the small child into his arms. I'm taking them back. The creature lunged. Ethan dove sideways, rolling across the floor as the monster crashed into the wall, splintering it like it was cardboard. Dust and plaster filled the air. The boy clung to Ian, trembling violently. Ethan ran for the door. The creature roared behind him, its heavy body scraping and tearing through the room, dragging itself after him with impossible speed. Ethan bolted down the hallway, the child in his arms crying hysterically. The walls buckled. Lights burst. Doors slammed open and shut like the house was alive. Halfway down the stairs, Ethan felt a cold hand clamp around his ankle. He fell hard, his chin slamming into a step, but managed to curl his body around the child as they tumbled. The hand tightened, nails digging deep. The creature whispered, right behind him, "You cannot carry all of them." Ethan kicked wildly, heels smashing into something soft. The grip released. He grabbed the rail, pulled himself and the child upright, and ran down the stairs, through the hall, toward the front door, which slammed shut in his face. Locked. Ethan pounded on it, breath ragged. "Please let me out." A whisper slid beside his ear. "You never escaped." He spun and the creature stood inches away, its limbs twisted, its chest split open like a rotten tree. And inside something moved, tiny hands, tiny faces, dozens, all versions of him, all the ages he suffered, all the pieces he left behind, all screaming. The creature reached for him. Ethan clutched the child, pressing the boy's face into his shirt, and screamed back, furious, shaking, "You don't own me anymore." The house exploded with a shockwave that threw everything backward. Glass shattered, walls blew apart. The creature shrieked, its body tearing into ribbons of shadow. Ethan shielded the child as the world around them collapsed into blinding white hand. Then silence. Cold, still, weightless. Ethan opened his eyes. He was outside. The house behind him was gone, not destroyed, not burning. Just gone. Only an empty field remained. He looked down. The boy in his arms stared up at him with wide, trembling eyes. "Are we safe?" the child whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. "I don't know," he said. "But we're together." The boy leaned into him. And for the first time in his life, Ethan didn't feel alone inside his own skin.